How are you today? Greg here. I wanted to talk about aging. The process of getting older. Now I'm reflecting on this because I've got a birthday coming up in a week, and it's not just any birthday. This is kind of a big birthday for me. This is birthday number 60, 6-0. And at these decade markers, at age 20, 30, 40, 50, and for me now 60, it's often a time of reflection and inventory about life and the experiences of life, and the realization that life moves forward whether you're ready or not, and time marches on. And I just have been thinking and trying to gather up my experiences in life, and I wanted to share just a few of those today. So decade number 1, from the time of my birth to age 10, I think that was a decade where I became self-aware. And I remember a lot of experiences that I had, but I don't remember that I had many opinions. Our family, we moved quite a bit. My dad was in the military, and so we kind of bounced around several places in Texas, to Georgia, to South Carolina, back to Texas, up to Canada. And then when I was about 5, my parents divorced, and then several years later Mom remarried. And so there were some big things that were going on in my life, but I don't know that I had an opinion about any of them, but I began to be self-aware. Decade number 2, from age 10 to age 20, oh my gosh, fasten your seatbelt. What a wild ride that was. And we made a move when I was 10. We made a move to Utah, and I fell in cahoots with a great bunch of young men that have become lifelong friends. And I discovered the mountains and the canyons and the rivers, and camping and fishing and hunting and hiking. And I was just in my element, and it was so much fun. I had my junior high experiences, and followed by my high school experiences. I began to discover more about what I liked to do, what I enjoyed. I discovered that I really enjoyed sports. And as everybody's trying to find their place in the world and how they fit in, and they're looking for acceptance and the approval of their peers, I found that athletics was kind of my ticket, and so I received a lot of self-fulfillment, and I felt like I was needed because I could compete athletically. I also discovered that I loved music, and that I had a propensity for that, and let's see what else. Oh yeah, in that decade, I got my driver's license, and what a huge thing, a huge marker for personal independence, because now you were no longer dependent upon somebody else picking you up and taking you to where you needed to go, but you could go yourself. And so a lot of freedom. Began to date, and what an adventure that was. And instead of just being self-aware, suddenly you are aware of others, and you begin to figure out the little nuances to that whole crazy experience. I also, so I graduated from high school, and then I went off to college, and then I also began a 2-year LDS mission, all in my second decade. And so if I were to sum that up, it was a decade of fun. It was awesome. Decade number 3, from age 20 to age 30, I found that I finished up my mission. I came home, I enrolled in college, and began to kind of explore and began to think, what did I want to do for the rest of my life, and what direction did I want to take? And while I was trying to figure that out, I got involved in a performing group, and that allowed me to travel throughout the world. I was able to visit India and Sri Lanka and Australia and New Zealand and Hawaii and Tahiti, and I was learning that there was a great, big, interesting, exciting world that was out there. Also in my 3rd decade, I met my wife, and we married, and we began our family. And I took my first assignment in my brand new teaching career, and we moved out of state. Huge things. But I would say that from 20 to 30, that was a decade of dynamic changes. Well, what am I on here? The 5th decade. Oh, golly. Okay, wait, I just have to count them. I've got them written on a whiteboard behind me. So let's see, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll make it decade number 4, from age 30 to age 40. This was a decade, I mean, in a word, it was a decade of work. It didn't have the same dynamic changes that the preceding decades had. This was a decade where we kind of settled in. We bought our first home. I continued my education and got a master's degree. We added to our family, and living out of state we were far away from home, and we were learning to be really independent. But it was definitely a decade of work, and the kids, 3 children, required lots of work, and you get tired from being on the job all day and then come home and just, had to continue the effort. Decade number 5, age 40 to age 50. And not to be negative, but I thought about this, and the word that I may change the word, but at least for now, the word is a grinding decade. It's a decade where you have to grind. We ended up moving back to Utah. We bought another home, our second home. Kids are in school. As the kids grow, what are simple little scraped knees and not eating their vegetables, the problems and challenges become a little bigger as they become teenagers, and there's a lot of work. They're getting more independent, but there's also a lot of work involved trying to get them to clean their room and to do their schoolwork and to stay out of trouble and to choose good friends, and then you're much busier at work as well. And so and you've been at it for 15 20 years. By this time you've been working and raising family, and so you really have to learn how to just get up and keep going. That's why I use the word grinding. Lots of joy, but also took a lot of effort. Okay, now the 6th decade. I'm holding the phone up with my other hand, so I can't. Boom, boom. There we go. 6. But the 6th decade, I would say that from age 50 to age 60, this was a decade of change. I started to watch my kids graduate from high school. I became a grandfather. In that decade, all three of my kids left home and married and moved on. And I retired from my first career. I had lots of responsibilities with my aging parents, and then just this last year ended up burying both of my parents. Lots of life changes. Now, as I sit at the precipice of going into my 7th decade from age 60 to age 70, I don't know what it holds. I hope that it is a beautiful, sweet spot. I know that it's a time where I'm looking to reconnect with my wife. The dynamic, I mean, it just happens. You get so busy and so caught up with everyone else, especially your kids and work, that sometimes relationships suffer. And so my wife and I are looking to reestablish ourselves and to rediscover ourselves, hopefully to travel, maybe to serve a mission together, and kind of recover from the last several decades that really do take it out of you. And so anyway, I've been thinking, right? So with my birthday coming up and with all these changes and the self-reflection, self-evaluation, the self-inventory that these decade markers bring. Anyway, hey, thanks for watching. Have a great one. Bye.